Good morning, ghouls. Cheers. It is finally that time where we are starting the horror reading vlog that I have been meaning to start this entire month. I have quite a bit to choose from, so let's get into what my possible TBR could be for this reading vlog because I still don't know what book I'm gonna start out with. All right, so my choices are, so I will say that there is one that I've already started, but only through audiobook. This is gonna be the audiobook that I'm going to listen to for the week. It is Their Monstrous Hearts, so I do own the physical copy. It is so pretty. Here are our choices. We have Swamp Phantom, which is like a ghost story by a local author to where I live. We have Jawbone, which I don't know much about this. I think it's leaning more into like psychological horror, which I do enjoy, and it has been on my TBR for a while, so this is another option. We have Last Days, which is like a documentary. It's supposed to be kind of like a found footage type read. Like if you were to watch a found footage movie, it's that, but in a book. I recently watched one of my favorite booktubers, her kind of review on it, and she did not like it at all, and it did not give me high hopes for this. So I'm probably gonna put this one off for longer, but it is on the TBR as a possibility if I am feeling it. Then we have Girl in the Creek, which I just recently purchased. I don't know why the edges are literally regular. I don't know why I was like, ooh. We have this one, which is kind of like a mystery horror, which I love. And it's smaller, which I also love when it comes to horror. This one is definitely on like the top of my want to read list. So I'm probably gonna start with this one, but I would say my other top contender to start with would be Senseless, because I got this one in the summer and I've been saving it for this time of year, and it's a signed copy. How cool. So there is this one as well that I definitely I need to get this read this week. That's like one of my top priorities. This is probably my top one, so I'm probably gonna start with this one. Then it would be Senseless, and then it would be the rest of these. Probably Jawbone would be the next one that I'm like super actually wanting to read. So what I think I'm gonna do is start with Girl in the Creek, and then after I'm done with this one this week, I think I will either move on to Jawbone or Senseless. I think either one of these would be a decent pick. So welcome to the horror reading vlog. Reading horror for a week. And I really quickly want to talk about Their Monstrous Hearts, since I am a little ways through when it comes to the audiobook. So far, it hasn't really been scary. It's more like the writing is really beautiful. As I'm listening to it, there are so many parts where I'm almost like, oh, I wish I was sitting down annotating, even though I don't annotate, because there are so many lines where I'm like, oh, that's good. I almost want to write that down for me to remember later. I guess I'll just tell you guys kind of the starting plot of it, and this will be a no spoilers reading vlog throughout. So we're following Ricardo, and his grandmother passes away. She leaves him her estate in Milan, I believe it is, and one of her grandmother's friends, I think it is, comes to him to tell him, hey, your grandmother passed away, we're having a funeral, and also this house and her butterfly collection is yours. And Ricardo is a struggling author, so he does decide to, I believe he lives in Paris at the time, and he decides to go ahead and go to Milan because there's just nothing keeping him in Paris because he is so broke and he needs to write, but he's having writer's block. Gets to his grandmother's estate, and it's kind of run down, so it hasn't been as well kept as he was maybe led to believe. He finds a manuscript from his grandmother that is detailing her life story, I guess you would say. So he finds this manuscript, but he's kind of hiding it from everyone else that he found it because he doesn't think he was supposed to have found it. And he's reading this, but also he's dealing with the funeral. His mother just kind of left him with his grandmother, but then he went off to boarding school later on. So yeah. So yeah, that's kind of all I've learned so far. And throughout the manuscript, it's literally just her detailing her life. It's really sad. There's a lot of sad bits so far, but not quite horror. It's horror in the fact that it's so sad. You know what I mean? It's horrifyingly sad. But other than that, I'm not really getting horror. So I'll keep listening to it. But so far, it's not one that I would recommend. Everyone says the whole book is just kind of this super slow burn to the end, and then the end is really good. So that's what I'm kind of holding out for. So that's that on that book. And without further ado, let's start reading Girl in the Creek. So in this book, Aaron's brother has been missing for 5 years. It was as if he simply walked into the forests of the Pacific Northwest and vanished. Determined to uncover the truth, Aaron heads to the foothills of Mount Hood, where Brian was last seen alive. He isn't the first hiker to go missing in this area, and their cases go unsolved. When she discovers the corpse of a local woman in a creek, Erin unknowingly puts herself in the crosshairs of very powerful forces from this world and beyond, hell-bent on keeping their secrets buried. So this one seems like it may be a little supernatural, but it's also a little thrillery and a little mystery. So I'm really excited to see what this holds. And it's also really tiny, so I feel like I could probably get this all read in one day. So anyways, let's get spooked. So it is Monday now. I am 71% of the way through this on audiobook. So I don't not like it. Like, it's not bad. I just feel like maybe this is not my personal type of horror, or maybe it's just not my personal type of writing style. Here's how I'm feeling as I'm listening to it. I'm feeling like there's just a lot of stuff that maybe in the end it will make sense as to why it needed to be a part of the story, but it just feels like fluff, like filler, like a way to make the book longer than it needs to be. You guys know, if you've watched any of my other reading vlogs, like, I hate when books are longer than they need to be. And you can't say that it's because I'm lazy and I don't like to read big books, because I'm clocking you all. That's what you're, no, I'm kidding. You cannot say that that's what it is, because I just read a book over 1,000 pages that I 100% loved and had no notes. So like, a book can be that long if there's a story to tell that makes sense with why it's that long. I'm not really like feeling anything towards any characters, and like, there was even a love story kind of thrown in, like a little bit of a romance, I guess you would say, thrown in here between our main guy and I think just like a guy that he meets, and it's very like insta lovey, which is just weird for a horror. Like, I'm just so confused, because I'm like, what is the story trying to be? Because there's a lot of fantasy elements now coming into it as we get further in, which is cool, but it's like, I feel like this story can't decide what it wants to be. Do you want to be horror, fantasy, romance? Because in my opinion, it's not doing any of them very well. I hate hating on a book, but like, it's not a bad book. I think maybe it's just not the book for me. I'm gonna finish it because I want to know what happens in the end, especially listening to it. I'm like, this is not a big book, but it has felt like twice the length that it actually is. And I know that listening to it, it's always going to be longer, but still, it's just one of those books where it's like, this shouldn't feel like I'm reading a 1,000-page book, but that's what it feels like. There's a monster in the book that's kind of a fantasy monster, and we learn about the lore behind said monster. And so it's almost like an effed up fairy tale kind of thing. That stuff is so interesting. The way it's written is really pretty. I think it needed to be edited down, in my personal opinion. Let's move on to the next book update, Girl in the Creek. I love this like little mushroom, if you guys can see on the cover. It's really, really cute. I am 150 pages exactly in. I'm on chapter 19. With this book so far, I'm not loving the writing style. What I'll say is, while I was reading this, all I could think was, this feels like I'm reading a movie script rather than a book, if that makes any sense. Like, especially the dialogue, it feels very like, what would these people say if we only had like one scene to convey whatever they need to say? I don't hate it. It's a very easy read, especially in contrast to their Monstrous Hearts. Like, this one is a lot. Like, it's just, the fantasy in it is crazy and it's just a lot. This one is a little more simple and like easier to just understand what's going on, in my opinion. So I'm enjoying this one a little bit more, definitely, than their Monstrous Hearts, because also this one has the mystery, and this one is just more interesting to me than the mystery in this one. I like the feeling that I have when I'm reading this one a little bit more as well, because in comparison, when I read this one, a lot of it's just sad, and so I just feel sad at the end. And in this one, I feel like it's a little bit more adventure. There's this thing in the book called the strangeness, and the very first chapter was really cool and also disgusting. It's kind of funny because I feel like the story itself is a thriller, but I feel like the way that it's written is very horror-esque. Like, it's creepy, it's kind of gross. It's super cool. Again, the dialogue is where I'm just like, it feels very like flat, but other than that, the story that's being told is really interesting. And in the beginning, you're actually from the point of view of a coyote, and it's just kind of interesting, and you learn about the strangeness, and it's almost like the strangeness is this thing that's maybe a mushroom or a fungi, we're still unsure, but it's like some kind of essence that can control dead things, I think. So that's just a really interesting like thing to read about. And then so we're introduced to the strangeness, and the strangeness has this fascination slash is trying to do something with this girl in the creek who is presumably, we're led to believe, like was dropped there by someone that killed her. And then Erin is our main character that we're kind of following throughout this, and she is going to this town where the strangeness lives, or like the strangeness lives in the woods outside of this town, something like that. And she's going there because her brother went missing a while back, and she found out that a lot of other people have also gone missing in the same area. So she goes there trying to figure out her brother's disappearance. And along the way, there's this girl in the creek that does get found by her, actually. So from there, like once she finds the girl in the creek, it's really just about trying to figure out how the girl in the creek connects to her missing brother. And like there's some weird stuff going on, and there's also some shady men going on. So it's like, yeah, it's just kind of almost like a whodunit mixed with, there's definitely some kind of fantastical elements. Yeah, there's like a little bit of adventure, a little bit of thriller in it. I guess that's it for the update for now. This was a 20-minute update. We'll see how short it gets edited down to, but all right, well, I'm going to drink my latte and I'm gonna read this one. Yeah, okay, I'll talk to you guys soon. Hey guys, update time. I finished the mushroom book, Girl in the Creek. Let's talk about it. I ended up giving it 2.5 stars. I thought about giving it 3, but it was just, I was like, well, I feel like I've given books that I've enjoyed 3 stars. So I was like, I can't give it 3 stars. So I gave it 2.5 because I did read the whole thing. I didn't DNF. So anyways, I looked up on Fable. I went to the reviews page because I was like, what if I just like look at some of the reviews that other people have said, and I'll read you guys the ones that I agree with. Or like, I'll tell you guys if I agree with some of the stuff they say. So a lot of people DNF'd it, which I totally understand, because honestly, if I wasn't filming this for a reading vlog, I would have DNF'd it 100%, just because I was so uninterested for a majority of the story. Let's see. This is literally like you took the thoughts right out of my head. Jessalyn gave it 2 stars and says, this book really wanted to be the witty, sarcastic Spore novel of the year and ended up falling short. With cringe-inducing dialogue, which that's what I already said in this reading vlog, was that the dialogue felt very like flat, and she nailed it on the head, and inner monologue alike. So yeah, even the inner monologue was just like so cringy. One could only hope that the plot would make up for it, right? Not the case. Each character's motives seem to shift and change every few pages, making for a very confusing and not very interesting read. Literally though, because throughout the whole book, I could never connect with any one character, because it felt like every single thing any character in the book did was purely to move the plot forward, and it didn't really matter if it was something that character would do or not, like in reality. So that was annoying. The main crew of characters were so bland and suffered the curse of no development at all, literally. The flat characters and narrative combined with the writing style that makes Wattpad look great. A lot of people gave it 2 stars, so I'm not alone in that. Okay, sorry, I'm back. Had to take a little break there for a second. Back to talking about the mushroom book. I like how I keep calling it the mushroom book, Girl in the Creek. Okay, so another person gave it 2 stars and said, I'm not sure how to rate this book fairly because I found myself a bit lost, confused, yet at the same time intrigued through the entire book. I will say I wasn't intrigued throughout the entire book, but I was definitely confused. Every single time I turn the camera on, my dog is like, I need to chew right now. He hasn't chewed all day, and now is the time. Whatever. I hope you guys can't hear it. I'm sorry if you can. The cover and synopsis drew my interest, and the first couple of chapters set up what seems to be a murder mystery, but quickly turned into an eco-horror sporer, which I don't mind at all, but the extra characters kind of bogged down the story, as I found they didn't add much to it. And here's the thing. It's kind of funny that I ended up reading this book at the same time that I'm reading These Monstrous Hearts. He literally moved his bone, or his chew, closer to me and the camera. Thank you, Ollie. He's so funny. He was like, oh, you couldn't hear it? Let me bring it closer. Anyways, what I was gonna say was, I feel like it's funny that I'm reading this book and These Monstrous Hearts at the same time, because both of them, I feel like, struggle with the same thing of like, it's not the idea, the story itself that's bad, it's just the way that it was executed. Like, there is a good story in there somewhere, but it's bogged down by all the random characters thrown in, because I felt the same way about this book that I am feeling about these monstrous hearts. And then they said the body horror description was the most interesting parts of the book, and I kept hoping it would pick up and gel the storyline together more, but again it fell short. Now when it comes to the body horror description, I am not a body horror person. I don't enjoy that. It grosses me out, but not in a way that I enjoy. I would have preferred if more thought was put into the plot and the characters' development rather than like making things sound really gross, you know? This person as well said that the dialogue was a bit cheesy. I'm glad I'm not alone in that, because from literally the first few chapters, I was like, why does the dialogues feel like this? All right, let's see. This one said, this is painful to say, another 2-star. This is so painful to say because the cover of this book is beautiful and the premise sounded right up my alley. Same, but sadly, no, this book was a miss for me. I felt bored mostly reading it, 100%. I agree. And I felt the characters were flat, which for me, the reader, makes me not care for them as much. Same. So everything that happened throughout the book, I just didn't care because I didn't care about the characters. All that to say, yeah, I gave it 2.5 stars. I kind of regret, not that I regret reading it, I just I could have spent my time reading a better book. That's all I keep thinking. So would I recommend? No. I think there are definitely better books out there, and I'm sure if you are into body horror and sporer, the fungi horror or whatever, if you're into that, which I think from reading this book, I'm learning that I'm not into that, because every single part of the book that had that in it, I wasn't into it. So I don't think that's for me personally, but if you are into that, I feel like there's a better book out there. This one is just not worth the read. It just doesn't feel like it was all the way fleshed out. Me just talking about all this while he's down there making the loudest chewing sounds is insane. Okay. Hi, Ollie. He's like, okay, it wasn't an ow, ow, Ollie. Okay. He's like, it wasn't enough that I was down on the ground. Now I need to be right here. He's such a little stinker. I love him so much. He's such a cutie. Hey guys, update time. It is the next day from the last time that I updated you guys. And I actually got these Monstrous Hearts finished on audiobook. I literally finished it a couple hours ago before making this update, because when I finished it, then I kept reading Senseless, which is the current physical book that I'm reading, and it is the last one probably for this horror reading vlog. But for these Monstrous Hearts, I wanted to talk about that with you guys real quick, and we're gonna do kind of the same thing that I did with Girl in the Creek, where I'm gonna read some of the reviews for the book on Fable, and we're gonna see if I agree with them or not. I will say though that kind of my first thoughts though after finishing it before reading any reviews. So my initial thought when it was done was, this was a really great story. I think it was a really great idea, really great story. I just don't know that the writing style was for me. I feel like other people would enjoy this a lot more than maybe I did, just because there were just parts of it that were so boring to me personally. And I just didn't really feel invested as much as I wanted to in the characters and things like that. And I will say that I did think it was better than Girl in the Creek though. If we're comparing, because I can't help but always compare, if I do a reading vlog where I read multiple books, I always want to compare them to one another, even if they have nothing to do with each other, just on how much I enjoyed them. And so far, I will say that these Monstrous Hearts, I ended up giving it 3.5 stars, and I do think that it was better than Girl in the Creek. I think it was better written, and I think the story was more entertaining. I will say I literally started crying though. I literally started crying when the author's note, just the reason for him writing the book is it brought tears to my eyes when he was describing I think it was him narrating, but I'm unsure on that. If it was him though, the way that he was describing why he wrote the book and the inspiration, it brought tears to my eyes, and it definitely made me cry a little, because I was just oh, that makes, it all kind of made sense and came together after hearing the author's note. So I highly recommend reading the author's note after the book if you do read this book. So that's what I have to say about it, but now let's read some Fable reviews and see what I think about what other people are saying. So the overall rating for it, and it has 157 reviews, is 3.2 stars, and I gave it 3.5, so my rating was technically higher than the average. I got gothic fantasy vibes from this. I think non-horror readers could enjoy this. There is a heavy parallel with fairy magic, with butterfly metamorphosis mystery. I came out of it with a lot of questions, but they didn't deter me from enjoying the book. I liked the narrative and overall setting / feel. I agree somewhat. I do think that there are a lot of gory things though that are described. It's not a lot, I guess, but like there are some really horrifying things that happen in the book. So I don't necessarily agree that if you don't like horror that you would still enjoy the book. And I do feel like if you're not a horror lover, you're not gonna get through the more boring, like not as exciting parts, because you don't really, like if you're not a horror lover, you don't really care about that end result then, because you don't really care about the horror part. Excellent cover art, had to fight my way to the end through the boredom, unengaging. Kind of how I felt too. Again though, after reading the author's note or listening to the author's note, I was like, props to you, like to the author, like no hate whatsoever, because I've never written a book, so like you're literally already doing better than me. You know what I mean? Like I am never gonna judge an author like harshly to the point where I'm like judging their character, and like it's not that serious or that deep. And also it's like, I may not like your art, but also like I've never done what you do. Like I've never written a book, so take my thoughts with a grain of salt. Like, you know, I'm just some rando on the internet. Don't worry about me and my criticisms. Like it's just for fun. It's, you know what I mean? It's not serious. So props to you for writing a book. A really lovely and interesting concept, but the writing style was not my favorite. Everything felt somewhat rushed and characters were rather two-dimensional. Highly agree with that. Highly, like that whole thing kind of sums it up for me, I feel like. This person gave it 3 stars. This book has some beautiful imagery and concepts. I loved what the author did with butterflies, was very eerie, is a creative and interesting concept. Highly agree with all of that. Highly agree. This book did drag some though, unfortunately. Definitely had some dull or slow parts, but the last little bit is a big bam and almost compensates for it. I would say that I do agree with that, but I also just don't think that that necessarily makes for a good book. If the book is only good because the last couple pages are good, that to me is like, then make it shorter. You know what I mean? I did not care for any of the characters in this personally. I found them pretty unrelatable, and I definitely did not like the grandma. And see, I had the same thoughts, but I was like, I get that I don't think we're supposed to necessarily like the grandmother in this. Like it's written in a way where it's like, obviously we're not supposed to like relate or like her. And at the end of her review, she says, if you're patient, this is worth the read. 100%. Like you have to have patience or you're gonna DNF. Honestly, if I wouldn't have been listening to the audiobook, I don't know how long it would have taken me to get through this. Like if I couldn't have been like walking while listening to it, you know what I mean? And had to just be like reading it and sitting, I don't think that I could have done that. This one is a 2-star. The premise of this book was so interesting, but unfortunately it just didn't hit for me. None of the characters were likable, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but none of their motivations made sense either. The monster was an interesting concept, but then the way it acted didn't make any sense either. Literally, and it was never really explained some of the things that the monster was doing, which you're not gonna understand what I'm talking about unless you read the book. And I think that's where a lot of horror books go south for me, is when I feel like I don't understand why the characters are acting the way that they are, and I don't feel for them. I'm not hurt by anything that happens to them, because then I'm not horrified. Then to me, it's just like very on the surface, and I don't care. Like literally the only part that made me cry was the author's note. There's not much else to say about it because I feel like that kind of encompasses everything that I liked and didn't like about the book. So that's that on that. So the next thing I want to talk about is where I'm at in Senseless. I am over 50%. I think I'm 52% of the way. I am on chapter 10 and page 224. And you guys like my little bookmark? It's a sticker. So cute, right? It's actually really good. And I can't believe I'm already halfway through it because time is flying by when I'm reading it, which is always a good sign. And literally though, I will tell you guys that underneath it all, I want to read a romance so badly. Like I literally need my hit of romance. Like I'm a romance addict. Literally. But despite that, I don't even want to DNF this though, because I really enjoy the book. It's not about the book. It's just the fact that I really, really want to read romance right now. But I know that I can finish this either today or tomorrow morning. So I'm going to keep reading this tonight. Oh my gosh. I am such a chatterbox. So let me just tell you what the book's about, because I'm not. Let's just say Zodiac killer vibes, to where there is maybe, we're unsure. That's kind of a question in the book actually, is like, are we dealing with a serial killer? So there's that kind of thing in themes in the book. We are following the perspective of the detective on the case. We are following the perspective of a woman who is engaged to an older man in the Hollywood scene, but like isn't an actor. I think he's He's some kind of Hollywood businessman type of deal. I forget. I think he writes movies, directs movies, something like that. But we're following his fiance as she is like newly in this relationship. Like they haven't met for very long before they got engaged. And also his son shows up kind of unannounced and turns out to be this, you know, kid that the dad's not proud of. And he's just kind of like, oh, this kid again, like always spending my money and whatever. They do not have a good relationship. And this kid shows up. And so we're following her navigating some stuff that happens with the son that gets brought in and then his friend and just kind of that dynamic. They're two very different people and we have not figured out how they intertwine yet. But then we also are following this other person who is very odd. It seems like this could be the person that is doing the killing. Like it's not spelled out, but it's also, it's like, okay, obviously this is the person that either is doing the killing or we're supposed to think is doing the killing, if you know what I mean. If there even is one, because it's still unclear if the two cases that happen in this book, even though they have similarities, it's still unclear as to whether they are actually connected. So I'm actually loving it way more than I thought I would, because again, I was like, all I want to read is a romance and I have to read this stupid book for this reading vlog. Ugh, you know, like acting like a petulant teen. And turns out I actually really like it. So yeah, this is the best book I've read out of the 3 that I have read, and I haven't even finished it, and I can already tell just the writing is better, to be honest. But I would say it leans more on being a thriller horror for sure. I'm just excited to get back into it. Okay, I'm gonna shut up because I talked for way too long, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Good morning, guys. It is the next day and I have finished Senseless. I don't have the sleeve on it, but this is Senseless, and I did finish it literally just like 5 seconds ago. It was really good. I ended up giving it 4 stars. So I definitely liked it better than the other 2 books that I read in this reading vlog, 100%. It just was more captivating and more fun and entertaining to read. So with this one, I wanted to do the same thing where I look up reviews. I just think that's so fun, and it helps me kind of get like my mind juices flowing to help me get what I'm trying to say also across. Okay, here is a 3-star review of the book. This book had an incredible atmosphere, dark, eerie, and expertly crafted, but the pacing was slow and at times frustrating. I don't agree with that because I thought the pacing, mind you, it could be though that I had read 2 books that I just didn't vibe with right before this one, obviously. So I wonder if maybe that to me was like, I was giving this one more credit because the other 2 were just so not my speed. Because I can see what this person is saying, but for me, like, it felt like it still was pretty fast paced. There are 3 different storylines running throughout, yes. And while I was intrigued by each, I kept waiting for each of them to come together neatly. I will agree with that. I did feel like by the end of it, they were all brought together, but I thought it was going to be done in a more expert way. Like, I would feel like I was hoping for a Riley Sager type of ending where everything comes together in the end, where you're like, oh my goodness, and there's like a twist, and that just didn't. I suppose there was a twist at the end of this one, but to be honest, the last sentence of the book, I don't really understand. I'm still confused, and I feel like I need to like look up that explained. I will be honest, that last sentence is probably what gave it a 4-star for me instead of like a 4.5, just because I was like, really? Like, I like an ending tied up. I don't like open-ended, like, oh, it's left for your own thoughts, because I'm just like, I'm not gonna think about a book for that long after I read it. Like, I want you to tell the full story. I don't need an open ending. Like, this isn't a creative writing class. You know what I mean? Like, if I want to make up a story in my head, I'll make up my own story. I don't need to like go off of yours. Like, finish your freaking story before you write it or before you publish. That's how I feel about open-ended stories, is that I don't mess around with them and I don't like them. So if a book has that at the end and I feel really offended by it, I will knock the stars down for sure. Each thread had strong elements individually, but the overall execution left me feeling a little detached from the bigger picture. I will agree with that. Yeah, but like overall, like a very interesting, entertaining read. So it's like, there were definitely some things, like some problems you might say with it, but overall, like, I would recommend if you like a kind of crime serial killer whodunit, but you're also like, you're in 3 different people's timelines, like try and figure out how they converge. If you like that, which I normally do, and obviously like I did like this one as well, I would recommend. It's a fun read. I didn't think anything was too gory or horrifying, and to be honest, especially in a book versus like if you're watching a movie, it's a lot easier to just skim over that, because there were parts in the book that I skipped over. If someone's eye is being gouged out in any book and like they're describing that in length and detail, I don't need to read that to understand the story. You know what I mean? Like, that's not, you can skim that and still understand the whole plot and storyline. So I'm like, with a book like that, it's kind of easier to skip over the gory parts if you don't really care about them. Yeah, someone said I enjoyed the book, but I wanted more from the ending. Literally same. I don't understand, because like the ending really leaves you like not completely tied up with a bow. Like there, you still have questions, and I just feel like in a book like this, you're reading for the ending, and the ending should tie things up, because otherwise it's like, well, why was I here? The more I talk about it, the more I'm like, maybe I should knock the stars down, because now I'm getting like annoyed. I'm like, yeah, they're right. Wait. But no, overall, like the writing style especially, I really, really liked. So we got 3 books done in this horror reading vlog. We had a 2.5 star, a 3.5 star, I think. Yeah, These Monstrous Hearts I gave 3.5 stars. And then we had Senseless by Ronald Malfi, which was 4 stars, which the more I think about it, the more I'm like, maybe I should have knocked These Monstrous Hearts down. But I don't know. I really do feel like These Monstrous Hearts had so much potential. Like it was such a cool idea, but it just wasn't super well executed in my opinion. So yeah, overall a pretty good vlog. I literally feel like I've just done nothing but read for the past 3 days, 3 to 4 days. Oh, and I did want to say I am now at, I believe, 63 books out of 100. 100 is my goal. So definitely subscribe and follow along if you want to see if I hit my reading goal, because I am going to try really hard to get, that's quite a bit of books. Oh my gosh, that's actually a lot of books that I need still for like the next 3 months. Wait, 2 months. Oh Lord. Okay. Comment below how many books you think I'll actually get to by the end of the year. Because I guess, yeah, we only have really like 2 months left before the end of the year, because for the rest of October, like I don't have much time to read because I'm just doing a lot of things. So yeah, wish me luck on my never-ending TBR journey. Okay, so I have 37, right? I hope that's right. 37 books left in 2 months. Cool, cool. So yeah, follow along, see if I hit that 100 number. Okay, I love you guys, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.